Neal, how'd the draft go yesterday? And, it's not all just about the first round. You got another 6 rounds.
Yeah.
Plenty to put money on with that.
Yeah, the first day of the draft. Now, there wasn't a whole lot of opportunity in the early picks. I mean, it gets pretty much dialed in. There wasn't a lot of odds movements. I guess the biggest surprise, and where we saw some people actually make a little bit of money is, for some reason, the Jaxson Dart. There was a lot of money on him and where he would go and the over and under of there. And of course, we had a little bit on Shakur Sanders, and of course, he is the odds-on favorite for the very next pick when they start back up again at 7:00 tonight. But our biggest liability of the entire draft is on what position is Mr. Irrelevant going to be in. So,
Really?
Yeah, believe it or not, a lot of it was because we had it front and center on the page, and Mr. Irrelevant got a little bit of more attention a couple of years ago when the quarterback from San Francisco wound up playing in the Super Bowl. This year's draft, the numbers that we had on the draft were a little bit lower, and I just think that's because there wasn't a whole lot of value in a lot of the early bets, which everybody's really paying attention to. The other markets that were also pretty popular, of course, what position was the Dallas Cowboys going to draft? What position was the Kansas City Chiefs are going to draft? Because, we have a lot of local bias for those teams and a lot of fan support in this area. So, but still, if you look at how much we took in bets yesterday, the draft was only about 10% of everything that we took in yesterday. Of course, the majority of it was Major League Baseball, the NBA playoffs, and college ball. We had a lot of action on the college games last night. So we expect a big weekend with Arkansas there at Florida.
In terms of just things happening within the state of Arkansas, and I know we've brought this up, I think, a few months ago, because there were some states, Ohio was one of them, that has limited or just taken away prop bets on college athletes. And it looks like the NCAA is asking the Racing Commission in Arkansas to do the same thing, of which I know BetSaracen's has been vehemently opposed to. So I just wondered what you thought about this.
Yeah, I mean, we knew. I mean, because the NCAA had sent out an open letter, and then they sent letters to various different gaming commissions, and they sent another letter requesting, that the commission evaluate that. And look, we've got a very, very smart Arkansas Racing Commission. I'm not going to speak for them, but our position is that with the proliferation of all of the illegal betting sites and the gray market sweepstakes sites where you got people under 21 that have access to these types of markets, and if you ban it on the legal sites, you're just going to push it back to the illegal. You're going to push it back to the unregulated, illegal sites where you don't have age verification, you don't have a dispute mechanism if that entity doesn't pay their bet or doesn't follow their house rules. Also, and then if we do not have the transactions, that every time that we have determined that there is something fishy going on, it's because somebody has, made a bet on a prop market that is an irregular and not a usual pattern, or there's a spike. And that's how we maintain our integrity and use all of our systems to identify that usual activity. And if that activity is no longer in the legal sports market, we no longer have access to that data. And they're betting it on the illegal market. It's not going to stop it. And, it still has an effect on if a player is doing something, and it's so rare that we even have one of these situations, because when it does, it's a big story. It's so rare that if we don't have that visibility, it still can affect the first half score, the second half score, the overall score, things of that nature. Anything that can go wrong if you have anything with collusion. And if you don't have that data point to identify the unusual activity, you don't know that it's happening. And it's always just about every betting scandal or gambling scandal or point-shaving story that you've heard before it was even legal in 2018 in the PAPSA, it was always the gambling industry that was able to identify it and allow and alert to what was going on. And like I said, a lot of people, gambling is not new. Sports betting is not new. Just legalized, regulated sports betting is new. And sunlight is the best disinfectant. And I think our rankings commission is going to evaluate it. They're going to look at it. And I think they've got some very forward-thinking commissioners, and I think they see it the same way that we do. Again, I'm not speaking for any of them, but I trust in their decision.
Well, and so with the way you're describing it, I mean, this directly describes the Jonte Porter situation, the former, I think he was with the Raptors, and just, you just read the story about him. He was telling guys to bet the under and then faking an injury so he could come out of a game and not hit his props. But you also wonder about how often that may have happened before, that it just was never uncovered because you didn't have the technology to be able to find those things out. And so people, you say sunshine is the best disinfectant. Well, that's what the leagues want. They don't want the gambling, but they also want to be able to hold people accountable. And man, you would hope there's a chilling effect too. When this whole investigation that started with Jonte Porter has just mushroomed into something much larger than that, and that when you read it, it's not good for the NBA right now, but it is good moving forward into the future.
Absolutely, and look, none of this is new, but sports betting is now legal in I think 38 states. The majority of them are mobile. Hawaii, who has no form of legalized gambling, I think it's a 80 to a 90% shot that they actually go with sports betting. And I think Hawaii and Utah were basically the only two states left that didn't have just about any form of legalized gambling. But yeah, I mean, just that's there. And the leagues, there's a little bit of a doublespeak with the leagues, that if they don't want, certain props and things to be done, they sure have these large nationwide gambling operators logos all over their stadiums, and to an extent, I've even seen them on some of the uniforms and augmented on the playing field. So it just amazes me that their rationale for not wanting to have college props is because on social media people get mad when they lose a bet. And I don't know, maybe what they've done with the transfer portal and the NIL and what they've done with the TV revenue, I think that people jumping ship after 1 year or before they get NIL money and they're already over to another team. I mean, we saw that with the Amaliava, both at Tennessee and in Arkansas, leaving and having NIL money. I think that's what gets the fans mad, not somebody not covering a first half point spread or something along that nature. That happens every day, and that has happened forever. This NIL transfer portal and the money that's going along and the money that these kids are making now, that's what's giving them exposure in the media. Are there outliers and idiots that want to get mad at a player because they lost the bet? Well, that's a responsible gaming issue, and if we see activity like that, we intercede and identify those situations and can put a stop to it by closing their account and not giving them access, and we can put an end to that with our integrity and with our responsible gambling initiatives.
Neal, last thing, it's that scene where the NCAA has licensed their data specifically for betting for postseason sports. Now, I know the NCAA, they own the championship, so that's their information, and I wonder what this is specifically for.
Yeah, what they're doing is they've done a deal with Genius Sports. If you look at any sporting event, usually at the end of it, you'll see, sports data provided by Sports Radar and Genius Sports. They have always collected sports data, but they have used it for the analytical and the sports information department purposes. That data that they collected has never been able to be used for gambling purposes. Now that the NCAA is going to dip their hand into the toe and go and license official data for postseason play and tournaments. And But then again, they're in Arkansas asking us to not do player props. So I'm not quite sure. Yes, am I calling out me as a bookmaker, legal bookmaker, calling out the NCAA? Yes, I am. And I just don't. I don't see how they can play both sides of that coin with a straight face. But it is the NCAA, and they're the ones that have created this mess. And I guess they want to throw stones at the gambling industry to distract from some of the things that they've done. But that's my personal opinion on that. But I think most people that are rational and listen to us kind of see through that. They want the money, but then they want to restrict and protect the players, but they're doing a gambling data deal. Come on, give me a break.
It's kind of interesting, Neal. All right, well, let's leave it there. We'll do it again next Friday, and always looking forward to your visits, Neal. Thanks a lot.
All right, everybody. Good luck on your parlays this weekend. Make sure you opt into the promos, and big series there at Florida with the Hogs. We're getting a lot of action on it already. So hopefully you're calling winners, and I wouldn't mind if you called a sweep on them this weekend. Even though it costs me money, anytime you're playing Florida, I like to see them lose.
BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all your sports betting action. Baseball season is in full swing, and we're into the home stretch for NBA. We're into the home stretch for NBA and NHL playoffs. BetOnline has more ways to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news, and scores, even live in-game betting while the games are being played. With the largest selection of odds on everything from the MLB, NHL, and UFC, BetOnline remains the number one online source for all your sports wagering information. In between games, head over to BetOnline Casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. BetOnline, the game starts here.